And so next we will have the next speaker will be, I think, is it in Taiwanese? Chen Seng-keat, Senior Research Manager at Merdeka Center for Opinion Research. And we actually received Seng-keat's contact info from a Malaysian media called Caijing a few weeks ago. At that time, IRG was invited to do a podcast on Chinese propaganda under the recent outbreak of COVID. And as we are organizing this event, we asked our friend at Caijing for people who studied information manipulation in Malaysia, and he recommended immediately Seng-keat. The center he worked for is an opinion research firm that acts as a bridge between Malaysians and the leading members of the society by collecting public opinion and expressing them through survey results, analysis, and position papers. And now I would like to give the floor to Seng-keat, please.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Seng-keat from Malaysia. I would just try to present a snapshot of the survey that we done last year. That's try to my topic of the presentation is actually this disinformation ideological a survey on Malaysian publics on the information warfare in Malaysia. So today's presentation I try to emphasize a little bit more on the Malaysian Chinese, although this survey will be covering the whole population, including Malay, Chinese, Indians, and some of the other native. So the study is conducted in throughout three months: April, May, June, in 2021. So it's a representative sample for the whole country. So I go straight to the presentation. There's two parts. I just want to show some of the social media behavior of the Malaysian population, and also why I would say that sometimes it's more like ideological things rather than the disinformation warfare. So this is the user behavior for the Malaysian publics. You can see that WhatsApp is almost like occupied 80% of the behavior. 80% of the respondents claim they're using WhatsApp daily. So then followed by Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Telegram, WeChat, and Twitter. But if let's say we go into a detailed breakdown by all these some of the social democratic background, then you can see that WeChat actually mostly used by Malaysian Chinese here, where 30% of the respondents say they use WeChat. But compared to other populations in the country, Malay, Indians, or other native, then you can see that the usage of WeChat are very, very low. But then again, there are also some of this age difference, where older people will be on the Facebook, then the younger people is on the Instagram and other kind of tools. So some of the social media platform we didn't include here like the Xiaohongshu, the written rate books, is increasing become popular among the teenagers in Malaysia. So we hope that in future we will include that as well. So then we asked about the respondent, how frequent they share message or post in the Facebook, Instagram, and only like 5% of people say they always are offered. A lot of people say no. But then we asked about how frequent they forward message, the instant messaging message. Then a slightly higher percentage, about 6 combined is about 7%. Say often and always means that they always forward something. Then half of the respondents say sometimes they forward. So you can see that there's a slightly different on the Facebook and Instagram and so on. But then more people are forwarding message in the instant messaging. So it makes us more difficult for us to trace some of these disinformation things due to the privacy issue. Well, sometimes you're on Facebook and other Twitter and other platform, we still can trace some of it. But in the private instant messenger, then it makes us more difficult. So we also ask what kind of message they forward. So then you can see the different response from the different social demographic. I try to highlight here where the Malaysian Chinese and Malaysian Indian. they try to forward the political news, either domestic or international. While the Malay will likely forward something that more sensationalized kind of things, and more fun kind of thing. Then we also ask, do you verify before you forward? Then we got something very interesting. Most of the people claim they verified before the forward. While the Malaysian Chinese will be maybe it's more honest, say no, they didn't verify. About 60% say they didn't verify before they forward. While only slightly more than a third the population, the Malaysian Chinese says they verified before they forward the message. So we also ask how frequent they encounter the fake news. Like 73%, three-quarter the respondents say they encounter the fake news before, but then there's a difference between the demographics, lower income people less, higher income people more kind of things. Then what we asked about what kind of fake news they got. This one is referring to 2021, and half of the response say is about the COVID pandemics, and a little bit about Malaysia politics, and only 2% claimed about the international new related fake news. Then we asked, will you have accidentally or intentionally forward some of the so-called the fake news or disinformation? Around average 12% of the people claim yes, they done that before. But then again, with a higher percentage from the Malaysian Chinese respondent, about 18% say, yeah, they forwarded something not true before. Then if we say go by demographic, then we also see something very interesting trend where higher income people tend to be say that they're involved in some of the information, fake news, disinformation before compared to the low income, higher on the urban population compared to the rural people. So we asked whether it's intention or intention. A lot of people say no, they're unaware about the fake news before they forward, and we have this kind of finding. Then we asked where are these fake news, this information come from. A lot of people claim from the page or some of the account they don't know, and some of it's from a politician, some other page. So, yeah. Then we asked that, okay, why I ask this is why we say that it sometimes is kind of ideological, because I want to show you two question about international, but how the Malaysians views about two superpower in the world. First, we ask about United States, how they view about United States. Again, you can see that the very polarized kind of things. Most of the Malay dislike US. The major reason behind it is because of the region conflicts in the conflict in the Middle East, about the Palestinian and the Israel, where the Malaysian Chinese, slightly more than half, dislike US for some of the reasons that we will show later. Where the Malaysian Indians, I think because their connection to the Indian continent, so they are slightly more pro US in this sense. And this is the reason we ask why they dislike US. Then you can see that a lot of people talk about racial issue in US against the Muslims and so on. Then we ask about China. What's your view about China? Then you can see overwhelming the Malaysian Chinese, 77% say they have a positive view about China. Only 15% have a negative view. While the Malay, about 50% have a negative view of China, but also higher percentage of people who view China positively. In this sense, so the reason is economic growth, but the reason for a positive view for China is about economic growth, COVID, and so on. So then from here, we asked about one of the contested issue over the last few years. We asked about what do you think about the Uighur issue in Xinjiang? Then you got a very polarized kind of response. The Malay, which are Muslim, they see that the Uyghur are being oppressed in China. For about half, 49% say it's being oppressed. Only 25% say it's exaggerated by the Western media. Welcome to Malaysian Chinese because they close relationship with the mainland China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. So they receive a lot of this information from mainland as well as Taiwan. Some of the blue media that mentioned before. So 61% think that actually the issue in Xinjiang being exaggerated. Only 12% think that the Uyghur have been oppressed in China. So you got already polarized when we correlated with the image of the country. So they would just believe that some of the information from China without thinking, and they just share or forward some of the message without so much filtering or verifications. While the other part of the population will think that their view about some of these issue or colored by their view about the country. So the reason they dislike China, the reason they dislike US, and so on. So we also asked about a question. This question only among the Malaysians Chinese, what they viewed about the Hong Kong protests happens in the past in the 2018 and 2019. Then you can see that 33% of the Malaysian Chinese say that it's a US conspiracy that's responsible for the Hong Kong issue, while 10% say it's a Hong Kong CEO, the 3% talking about the Hong Kong police, 10% blame the Beijing officer, and 7% blame the Hong Kong opposition. But although these things seems like a bit worrying for some of the audience, but we also need to highlight the difference between the generation. You can see that which highlight some of this red circle here. Those age 40 and above are slightly buy into this China propaganda, where they think that the Hong Kong protest is US is behind all this. Where the younger population would be more independent-minded or less this sentimental connection with the China, the culture type kind of thing. Then think that is less so a US conspiracy theory. Is some are talking about Hong Kong chief executive, or somebody they say is the Beijing. Beijing should be responsible for the violence in the Hong Kong protests. So this is some of the snapshots. So we also asked a question. What do you think about the COVID-19 kind of thing? Is from the lab or from the natural disasters? Is a natural disease kind of thing? You can see a very polarized response across the different demographic. The Malay would think that is from the labs. It's either the China or US behind it. While the Malaysian Chinese would think that is the kind of natural things, and so on. So we can see that the ideological, the view about some of these big country, it color their response to some of these news, this news or propaganda or disinformation. So some of it they just believe it, even though we think some of the Malaysian journalists, media try to say that some of these are fake news, but some of it still believes some of this conspiracy theory. So this is a snapshot, a short one. I hope I keep my time and we can have more discussion later. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Seng-keat, for your presentation.